All right, hello, and welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. My name is Sophia Pfiffner, and I am the CEO and president of this organization, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's conversation. First, I want to say hello and thank you to any of our live stream audience members. We're so excited to have you as part of this conversation, and also a huge, huge welcome to everyone who is in the room today to talk about an issue that's so important to so many Central Ohioans. Welcome today's forum sponsor, which is Gebben Communication. So Heather and Gebben Communication, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. And our host, the Ellis, I had a conversation with a few of you, and if this is your first time to the Ellis, it's been a wonderful space for us to host our conversations as we're continuing to evolve as an organization. We're so thankful for our presenting sponsors for our conversations, and specifically our live stream, the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation, and our live stream partner, the Columbus Dispatch. We would not be able to provide that service without their investment. So let's thank everyone for their support of today's conversation. All right, so this evening's conversation is all about people who shape the way we see ourselves as Central Ohioans. Today's forum is a dialogue on how diverse voices and creating a more inclusive and connected future through our city through social media. We're so pleased to welcome today's group of amazing social media influencers by examining their roles in shaping the cultural and social fabric of Columbus. Today, we'll uncover the subtle yet powerful ways in which our community is being defined. We are thrilled to welcome today's panelists by first starting with Elisa, TV personality and content creator. Let's give Elisa a round of applause. Morgan, founder and content creator of the Columbus Living blog. And Jenny, brand builder and content creator of Instagram's Jenny Bites and Booze. And last but not least, we could not have this conversation without a host. So our host, Heather Whaling, president and founder of Gebben Communication. Heather, welcome back to the CMC. We look forward to today's conversation, and the conversation and podium is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sophia. All right, we have a very short amount of time for questions today, so I'm going to jump right in. First, talk to me, what does it mean for you to be referred to as a social media influencer? Did you set out to be an influencer, or did you mean to? And how has your vision for that role as an influencer evolved as you've gained more followers and gained more influence?
Should I start?
That would be great.
I'm Jenny. Nice to meet everyone here. I love this question because I actually don't consider myself an influencer. I started my food blog because I genuinely wanted to start something, and it was a creative outlet for me. I was moving from Seattle to Columbus about 2.5 years ago, and I had gone to Ohio State, so I knew like Columbus was amazing, but I just wanted to document my journey here. And so I think because I was just myself and was just documenting everything along the way, people were more authentically interested. And so as time went on and I got more followers, yes, I have influence, and yes, I think people do, obviously, businesses especially are impacted if I post them. I still don't consider myself a true influencer. It's more of just like a creator and a food blogger and just here to like share my experiences. And for me, it's like a dialogue with the city. So I am sharing what I like to do in the city, and my followers, who some of them have become friends, are sharing back like their reactions and what they like to do. So we're like crafting the story together of like, how can we have amazing experiences in the city?
Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Jenny. I don't necessarily consider myself an influencer. I definitely consider myself more of a content creator. So when I saw influencers as the tagline, I was a little bit taken back because I don't know if I'm actually influencing purchases or influencing people to take advantage of experiences, but I would definitely consider myself almost like a community builder, a community connector, someone that is really trying to showcase the experiences in Columbus through a Black content creator lens. I think that's really important to me. I think when I I started as a young professional, trying to get to know my city, trying to figure out what was happening in Columbus, from happy hours to different businesses that were going on to festivals and experiences. And then over time, it's really evolved to so much more than that for me. It's evolved to a community of women that I've been able to connect to, a community of people that I've been able to relate to. I've been able to kind of transition from young professional to motherhood, womanhood, self-care, wellness, and really highlighting those experiences. I would say even most recently, just highlighting Black maternal health has been really huge for me, and documenting my labor and delivery experiences and sharing that. And then also highlighting my kids and highlighting my husband and highlighting my family, and just kind of showcasing that and being able to connect through DMs, community engagement, community management. And it's been really fun, and it's been something that I've been able to do, and just something that I've been able to look forward to after like a long day of work. I work in corporate social media for a large financial institution in Central Ohio, and I actually got my job because of Columbus Living Blog, because I was able to transfer those skills, and I wasn't working in social media before I was in the role that I'm in now. So it's definitely benefited, my family and myself, and then also the businesses that I've been able to partner with and collaborate with. And so to answer your original question, definitely more of a content creator and more of a community advocate.
That's great.
So I would say that I think I've kind of grown up with social media and the internet. And I think that anyone who has social media is an influencer, because anytime you post anything, you are potentially influencing someone else to either buy something or go somewhere or do something. So I think that anyone, whether they consider themselves influencer or not, probably is. I work in television, so part of working in TV, you have to post online. That's just part of the job. But even before I worked in television, I used to be what I consider to be a writer, but actually turned into being like a blogger. So I used to work for a website, and we would post cultural, pop culture articles and things like that. And so I did that for a while, and I watched the internet evolve from writing and then blogging for your family and friends, blogging for a larger audience, then becoming a blogger, then switching to social media and becoming an influencer or content creator or whatever we're calling ourselves these days. And so I don't think I really set out to be an influencer, but I think that I always have been involved in social media. I started on Twitter in 2008. I started on Facebook. I was a freshman in college in 2005. I was so excited with my college email address to be able to sign up. So I think I've just kind of grown up with social media. And whatever iteration it's taken, I've just gone along with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So Columbus as a city or as a community is at an interesting crossroads right now. We're growing so quickly in the midst of this major transformation where, there's sort of traditional opinion makers and gatekeepers and power brokers, and some of that is transitioning in part thanks to sort of the democratization of people being able to get information out through social media. So talk to me, when you think about who gets to tell the story of Columbus and who gets to shape the narrative of Columbus, what role do you hope to see online influencers and content creators playing in that responsibility?
I can take that. So I would have to say it's our responsibility to be true and authentic to who we are when it comes to content creation, and we have a responsibility to be honest when it comes to the partnerships that we do or the things that we share, and just being very conscious of what value we are giving and providing to our communities. I would also say that if there are partnerships or if there are opportunities where you're being sought after for, or you're being presented to them and they don't align with your values and beliefs, to say no. I would say that there have been a couple of opportunities where I've actually done the partnership and I've gone back and say, hey, this is not what I thought that it would be. It's not something that I expected. Would you mind me paying for the service or the product? Just because I don't necessarily feel comfortable amplifying this. And then also knowing that these are small businesses that you're supporting and amplifying, you're taking money out of their pocket. So just being considerate of that and just being honest to who you are and just being truthful and straightforward, I think that's what communities are looking for.
I have a follow-up question related to that. So talk to me a little bit about, and anybody can answer this, but talk to me, what do you think the role is of influencers and what impact they have on the local economy specifically? So a lot of you partner with small businesses or up-and-coming businesses as they're getting ready to launch or as they are trying to find outlets to tell their story. How do you see your role as a piece of the local economy?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to echo everything that Morgan just said, because I think being really authentic to yourself and taking partnerships that you truly feel good about is like the key to everything. But to answer the question about fueling the economy and local business and like entrepreneurship, I think that's a beautiful thing. And it really is, a lot of times, I feel like I'm making a big part in that, right? I post something and then I can, like, inevitably 20,000 views happen or more. So it's really cool to see, like, if you really believe in this business or it resonates with you, you love the food, you love the vibe or the experience, to amplify that. And like to do that, and it's not hard for me, right? I love doing it. I love content creating. As long as I align with it, I'm very happy to do it. And then I also agree with, like, if you're getting compensated for it, it has to be disclosed, because it just is important to not come across any sort of type of way, you know, where you're deceiving the audience.
And I think that influencers play a huge part in the local economy. I mean, I think that that's, when you see things on social media now, like I'll just say, for instance, how many of you guys have Instagram? Like have an Instagram account that you actually look at? How many of you guys have TikTok that you actually look at? A little less hands. How many of you guys have, what is it, X now? Less hands. What about Facebook? But I think everyone in here is on social media, and I think that there are so many things, if you really think about, that you found out about because of social media. So I think about the local economy. Like when I talk to local businesses sometimes in both my television job and also like my influencer life, and I listen to small businesses tell me that they are not on social media because they don't like it. I'm like, listen, that's not an option for you anymore. You have to be on social media. That's where we all are. If I asked any of you guys, how many of you guys watched the news last night? I'm not gonna ask, but it might be less hands. So I'm just saying, like, I feel like everybody is on social media, and I think that plays a huge part in the local economy. I think that businesses really have embraced it, and I think that as influencers, we have a responsibility to amplify local businesses in an honest way, as they were saying, not just because you're getting compensated for it, but really in an honest way, in giving people the opportunity to even find these businesses, because that's how I think of it. Like, maybe someone didn't even know this little play cafe existed until I posted about it on Instagram. So it's almost like an altruistic thing, but also like, I am supporting this business, but also it's fun, and I want to do it. But I do think that social media plays a huge part in the local economy, probably even more than some of the traditional ways to advertise. I think that with influencers, it feels more personal. So I think that influencers play a huge role. I think I play a small part, but I am thankful if I've been able to post or share about any business and it's actually helped them. That I consider that to be really positive, and I love that opportunity.
I love what you were saying about the responsibility to shine the light on these small businesses and the responsibility you have to the community that you have built of people following you, and then the responsibility to support the local economy and the businesses that are doing or that are trying to grow. I want to take that piece of the responsibility piece. How do you approach your opportunity or responsibility to influence public opinion or behavior, especially around maybe some of the more critical social issues that are facing the community as we are growing? You talked about Black maternal health. There's a lot around affordable housing, mobility. There are all these issues that are facing the community. What role do influencers play in that, and how do you walk the line between your personal opinion and what you post about publicly?
Really good
I'm just here to ask all the hard questions.
Because I don't know necessarily if I'm swaying public opinion from the standpoint of like political views or maybe issues that I'm passionate about. I think that people are very much kind of tied into what they believe, and it's kind of hard to convince them to go otherwise. But I will say that my most engaging conversations probably happen in my DMs, so privately. And I absolutely love just kind of the connections and the community that I've built there that's not seen. So outside of the conversations that take place on the comments of social media posts, I really want to make sure that I'm nourishing the communications that happen behind the post. And I would say that those were some, like even at, I would say for example, like at 3 a.m. in the morning while I'm pumping, there might be another mom online and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm right here with you. And we're talking and we're conversing. It's like, okay, I'm about to go to bed now. And it's like one of those moments where I'm like, wow, like this is a community that I've built. And I think my opinion matters to them and their opinion matters to me. And I think I was talking to Sophia earlier about this, but I'm actually nervous about meeting some of the people that I'm connecting with digitally in real life to not meet the expectation of maybe a fantasy of that they have of me. Not like anything crazy, but just like that image of like how you envision me in your head, and then like does that meet the reality when you meet me in person? So I mean, to answer your question, I'm not sure if I'm swaying public opinion, but I always lead to the acronym about what I post. So the acronym THINK. So THINK being like, is it thoughtful with the T? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? And then K, is it knowledgeable? So if it doesn't meet that particular acronym, I decide whether or not I want to post or not. So I know I took a lot, but I want to be able to pass it to my other fellow panelists to answer.
Yeah, look, so I have a food and drink blog. So for me, my mission is to share food and drink experiences in the city. So I do take a step back on political views on my page. But I don't miss the opportunity to remind people to get out there and vote and to make sure that your opinion is heard. I think that's very important. I know I just hit 40,000 followers this past weekend, which is so exciting. So, I mean, that's a big chunk of the community. And so I think it's very important that we all go out and vote and we all like share our voices. And I think I love that I can remind people to do that.
I think that I try to tread very carefully online. Like I said, when I got started back in like 2008, when you could post whatever you wanted on Twitter and like it didn't matter. So I had to go back and delete my own tweets. Because I was like young and just saying whatever came in my head. And once you get older, get a little perspective and get a real job, you gotta kind of pull back a little bit. So, but I do think that some things are worth saying. And I think that sometimes there are people who that is their job. They wake up in the morning and they are going to town on everything political, every hot button issue. That's their thing. They're doing it, and they're doing it, well or terribly, depending on how you think about them. But that is not necessarily my thing. However, I do think that sometimes, depending on what it is, I think that sometimes if it's coming from someone like me who isn't always like jumping on every single thing, saying something, that maybe when I do say something, maybe the people that follow me would maybe stop and take notice of what I'm saying. So I do try to be careful about what I do say, because it can get very easy to be caught up, especially in the rage machine. You can be enraged about something every morning if you want, especially on social media. But I think that there are times where I think it is important to say something, and in those moments I think about that and I try to like run it by my husband, like, what do you think about this? Like, because he'll be like, take that down. Don't post that. But sometimes I think it is worth, some things are worth talking about, some things are worth saying, and I think that some things are, better left unsaid. And then sometimes I have to think, does this need to be said, number one? Does need to be said right now, number two? Does need to be said by me right now? And I feel like those three things, because if you're just echoing what all these other people are saying, let them say it, because they don't have maybe the same things on the line that maybe I would. But I do think that it is important too. Sometimes things need to be said, and I think that can be like a positive contribution to social media. And also, don't look for my old tweets. I changed my name on Twitter.
We can all go search after we're done here. How do you see the role of influencers and content creators contributing to create a more inclusive and diverse representation of Columbus and Columbus as a community?
I mean, I'll just say, do it and just get started and just start putting content out there and feeling comfortable that it's not going to be perfect when you do it. That's how I got started. I wasn't going out and starting Columbus Living Blog because I was going to be seen as a Black content creator or I was going to be seen as a diverse voice. It was truly just getting to know my city. And I think that more diverse voices should be on the platform and sharing their experiences, because I'm not going to be a subject matter expert in everything Black, to be honest. And I feel like when you can connect to experiences and you can relate to them and you can share that story through your own personal brand and you're showing your connection, I think that's what's authentic and meaningful. And you you kind of spurred an idea when you were talking about the political stuff and about when you were saying whether or not you are going to say it or if you need to say it. And that's how I've kind of evolved some of my content. Is I wasn't a mom before like 10 years ago, but now I'm talking about all the things motherhood. So it's also being open to changing your content over time and rebranding yourself and refreshing the content that you put out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say social media gets more diverse as more people create on it, right? So I think if you want to be heard, just start doing it. And I think that's what's really cool is like 10 years ago, it would have been really, well, I know you did it, but like 10 years ago, it would have been intimidating for me to start an Instagram or a food blog, but now it's so accessible to anyone. You go on Instagram, you click plus, and you can start a page right away. So I think that's really cool. Like everybody has the capacity to do so and the resources to, and the more voices that are on the platform, the more diverse it is, which I think is amazing. And I think for me, like I don't necessarily think of myself as an Asian creator or like anything that's like really physical characteristics on my part. It's more of like, this is my experience. I come from a different background than everybody here. We are all unique. And so we all have something to say, and it's all welcomed in this space.
I think that it's very important to like share other people's content. I think that it's really easy to be like in your own, like you look at your own Instagram and everybody is just like you, or your own Twitter and everyone's just like you. So I think it's nice when you can see someone else who is different than you and you can share their content, then maybe somebody following you now is gonna follow them. And that's the great thing about social media. I mean, I've had that happen to me where some influencer like shared something that I posted and I got all these followers. I'm like, whoa, where'd those come from? But I think sometimes you can feel like, you're in this little box, but there are people following you. And I think when you share diverse voices or just anyone else that's not you, you are helping amplify that content. And you're also providing a service to your followers by introducing your followers to other content creators who they maybe wouldn't have followed if it wasn't for you, if that makes sense.
I think we're all following that, yeah. Okay, I have one more question, and then we'll open it up for other
For 10 minutes.
questions. That's okay. That's all right. That's what we're here for. How do you see influencer marketing or partnerships between brands and content creators or community organizations and content creators evolving over the next few years from your perspective?
I still think that TV is king, and it's not just because I work in television, but when something happens, I think TV is still king. However, I do see influencer marketing is like just getting bigger and bigger. I mean, it is amazing when I see some of these brands and they're partnering with these influencers, and sometimes you'll see like an influencer from your Instagram is like in a commercial, and it's just like crazy. So I think that it can be confusing for some small businesses to know how do you get these influencers to even like promote your products. And I think it can be confusing for the influencers to say, how do you charge? It just feels like the wild, wild west in some ways, but it also it seems to be like growing, which I think is a positive thing. But I do worry sometimes that it's like these huge accounts, and not necessarily like the smaller accounts, because I think sometimes micro influencers could be more influential than somebody who has like 10 million followers. But I think that there's room for everyone, which is good. I think it's very, what did you word use earlier, democratization? I like that word. Yeah, I think there's more of that on there. I see influencer marketing growing. I mean, it's not going away. It's just getting more and more and more. But I hope to see it become more like, I don't know, like streamlined. It just feels wild out there. It feels wild out there.
Back up one point of what you were saying. So we at Gabon love data, and we see what you're saying exactly. So when we work with either nano influencers or micro influencers, their engagement and conversion rates are actually higher than some of the influencers who have like the massive amounts of followers. So there's something there that you're really saying. Okay, go ahead, you two.
I don't know if I have anything else to add with the answer that you provided, Elisa, but I would say from like the corporate lens, I feel like you're absolutely right. Like for corporate brands to take advantage of influencer marketing, they can't move as fast as the micro influencers because they have to go through legal reviews, they have to go through product reviews, they have to go through like 10 to 12 different review cycles, and then all of a sudden the content is stale, it's no longer relevant, and then you're back to the drawing board and you're doing it all over again. So I would love to see in a couple of years for brands to be more nimble and for social media managers to be the CMOs of their companies, just because they have a pulse of the audience, they have the pulse of the customer, they have the voice voice of the customer, the voice of their online communities. So I'd love to see that pivot and that shift there. And then for more investment to be happening on the organic side versus just the paid side. And granted, I do love being paid for some of the efforts that I am with the partnerships and the collaborations, but I think that there is also a voice on the organic side because working in organic social, it's, you know, increasing the opportunity to be able to engage with people and to be able to, and I'm going to stop there because I'm going to go on a tangent, so I'm going to pass it over to Jenny. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking on LinkedIn, and there's pretty much an influencer marketer role for every brand now, and it kind of scares me because even as somebody who has been an influencer marketer, done paid partnerships and collaborations, there's so many things that can like not go right, even in like a small capacity. So I'm like, these big brands are trying to, you know, come out and make something happen with maybe something that they might not even have been like exposed to, right? Because they maybe haven't been in the shoes of somebody who is a content creator or like an agency that's working directly with the content creator. So I think there's just so much information that needs to still be disseminated. And I think the more that we share about like our experiences and how we content create and like brands and agencies are open with like what is working and what isn't working, that's how we can achieve more like authentic, genuine reach that's like gonna actually build the business. And I feel like right now it's still in that really like wild, wild west, right? Like, but I think the more that we share and that we like reapply things that actually worked, then we can actually take it to better places.
That's great. It is a longstanding tradition here at CMC to take audience questions. So we're going to take questions both from you here in the room and from those who are on the live stream. So if you are on the live stream, you can type your question into the chat. If you are here and want to ask a question, there's a microphone back there that you can stand at and we'll take questions.
Hello. It's a long-standing tradition, as Heather said, to take audience questions. Questions at CMC are brief, and they actually end with a question mark. So I hope that all of you will join me here. I'm going to be asking some questions from our live stream audience. My name is Lainey Cuthbert. I'm glad you guys are all here. In what ways can influencers and community leaders collaborate to address systemic challenges and inequities within Columbus?
Well, I thought I had the hard questions.
I think just engaging with the right people. Like, I'll give an example. There was a campaign in Columbus, Make It Make Sense, to end smoking, and it's like an anti-tobacco campaign with young people in Columbus. And I really liked how they partnered with people who are influential in that community to then be able to spread that message to that community. So I think that if you are a community leader or a politician or whoever, and you have a mission and a goal, I think it's important to target that towards people who can actually reach the people that you're trying to reach. And because I think that in doing that, it's mutually beneficial, because then you have the quote unquote influencer who is also passionate about this and has an ear and a hand in that community that can spread that message further. So I think those partnerships are really important, and I think that it is fantastic every time I see it.
I think to build on that, like, social media is an awareness platform, right? But you can only do so much on the platform. It's all about like learning and educating yourself, and then also going out into the community and then actually taking action there. So I think for me, like, I love to learn. I'm on my phone so much, like, 2, 3, 4 hours screen time, whatever. And that I've been trying to cut
hours
back.
awake.
So I think for me, it's like that's where I get my information. But I do think it's you got to take action outside of it, right? You can't just be on your phone.
I would say also to create the forum and space to even invite influencers in and have like a small discussion, like kind of what we're doing now, having a panel discussion. I would say that, reaching, like Lisa, you mentioned, like the audience that you're trying to target, like looking and researching and maybe working with PR firms or people that are doing it well. I would say just being engaging and creating that space can be helpful.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Hello? Oh. That's loud. Hi, my name is Jennifer Sanger. I'm actually a business owner for Jameson and Bexley. I'm going to give a shout out to Morgan for featuring me on her blog during the pandemic, which got me so many new customers and followers, so thank you for that. You are making a difference, if anyone ever told you. But I guess my question would be, as someone who creates content for my business, at what point do you see that it's getting the right customers, the right target market? Do you post every day? Do you use certain hashtags? Like, do you ever get frustrated when you're like, I made this great post, this should be like viral, and you get like 5 likes and 4 of them is from like your family members? So.
I would say Reels is the way to go right now. That is single-handedly like the focus for how I want to build a bigger audience. I think static posts are great for your existing followers. They're an amazing way to like engage and like have your existing followers get to know you a little bit better. But for businesses, I would say Reels. I see a lot of businesses do that, and they're gaining so much more traction with not only engagement but also new followers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paulette Burks, and I follow all 3 of you. But to my question with the question mark, we talked a lot about the Columbus community currently, and it seems like all 3 of your platforms of choice is Instagram. But with Intel coming into Columbus, there's going to be a lot of new transplants to Columbus, and there's also going to be a lot of new visitors to Columbus. So currently a lot of your followers are folks who are here. Have you dug into your data to see how many folks are currently looking at your Reels and your posts to get new places to eat or a business to try if they're not local? My bad.
I mean, like, I think that the majority of my followers are definitely in Columbus, but I feel like I talk to people who are all over the country. And I even feel funny sometimes, even when I was posting about today, I'm like, my Columbus friends, like, come to this event, because social media, you can be talking to somebody in India, or you can be talking to somebody who's on Livingston Avenue. It's just so interesting how it's like so big. And you're right, with Intel coming, there's gonna be so many more people coming to Columbus. And so whenever I post on social media though, even being from Columbus and living in Columbus, I know that there's no way for me to know every business, every restaurant, every event, every fun thing. So I always post in the idea that people have no idea what Disney on Ice is, or people have no idea what this restaurant is. And so I hope that's helpful to people who are either lived here forever, just moved here, or maybe coming here. I hope that all of my content is for everyone, whether you're very familiar with Columbus or not. I always err on the side of assuming that you don't know what this place is. And so I think that could be helpful, if that answers your question, Paulette.
It sounds like maybe there's an opportunity for someone to start an account on being a transplant and new to Columbus and what to know when you come here. So some enterprising person maybe should do that.
I think more than like 80% of my followers are Columbus based, but in my DMs, I get a lot of people messaging me privately, like, oh, I just moved here, or like, I've heard so much, I want to move to Columbus. So I think there is a variety of voices out there. So I take the same approach. I post with the assumption that people don't know a whole lot about this city, and just try to provide as much detail as I can. And hopefully, it's all about amplifying the city and getting people more excited about the experiences that you can have here.
For me personally, I am always also referring other content creators who are also doing like food, or maybe their lifestyle, or maybe they are focused on experiences, not just myself, just because I feel like they can get a breath of what Columbus has to offer. And I'm gonna put a plug in for one of my blog posts. I have 75 reasons to move to Columbus. So some of that also includes like some of the fun things that are happening in the city. So I always like to send a link if somebody's new, but also opening it up for if you want to do a coffee chat, if you want to meet in person. I try to make sure that like sometimes my mornings are available, and then also anytime to do like a happy hour if I can tag team with you, Paulette, and as well as my parents in the room to watch the kids for me.
Takes a village.
Hi. So coming back to what you talked about a little bit earlier with these paid partnerships and large companies reaching out and being able to offer you a service or an experience in exchange for you marketing, how would you recommend that the small business owners in town, which you were saying, I understand you like to support them, but sometimes you probably organically find out about them, or you go to the restaurant or whatever. But what if they want to reach out to you about a potential partnership, but don't have the know-how of, like, how do you prepare a pitch, or what do you offer if we don't necessarily have the resources to be able to do some sort of trade that might be appealing to an influencer?
I would just say DM them through the platform that they're mostly on. I would say a lot of the times we're checking our DMs, we're checking our posts, especially being a micro influencer. And if there's a service or if there's a product, just saying like, hey, would you want to do an exchange of services? I don't necessarily have the funds to be able to do a paid partnership. And they have the opportunity to say no, or they have the opportunity to say, yeah, like, I'd love to be able to amplify your business. I want to say 80 to 90% of the time, depending on if this person is a full-time content creator or if they're working part-time, like whether or not they'll be able to take you up on it. A lot of the times I'll have to say no to opportunities, not just because I don't want to do the partnership, just because my time. Like if I'm doing a partnership with someone, I have to think about the time I'm taking away from my kids, and if it's going to add value to my audience, if it's going to add value to my life, is it going to be beneficial to my family? Am I realistically going to buy it from like a product or a service perspective? So those are the things that I think when I do and accept partnerships. But I would say just go for it. Like I would say make sure it's a quick blurb. You have your ask, and maybe if you have a time frame on it, like when you're expecting the post and what the expectation is, so there's not a lot of follow-up, and the influencer or the content creator knows exactly how to answer and how to respond quickly to you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I also would say that, whenever you're reaching out, to know the influencer you're reaching out to, because I cannot say how many pitches I've gotten for things that do not apply to me whatsoever. And I'm like, so you're just sending this out to everyone? Because if you follow me on Instagram, you know I don't have a dog. So why are you asking me to promote your pet products? Doesn't make sense. And I also have to think about, like you said, like the time and the fact that there are there's your own Instagram or your own TikTok or whatever that you're posting stuff. Then there's like the paid things, and then there's like the people who just want you to work for free to help them make money. And so I think you have to like really think about like what you're asking the person to do. And like I've had people say like, oh, can you post about whatever? And I'm like, well, do you mind if I put it in my stories with a link, which I still think is valuable, but if they're like, oh, I don't want that, then I'm like, well, I mean, you're not offering, I'm just like, that's actually really good to post with a link. That's actually really good. So I think that you really have to think about what you're asking and think about what the benefit is for that influencer and really know who the person is, because like I have a 6-year-old, and I've had businesses reach out and say, hey, I'm like at a play place. Would you come and post about my business? I'm like, sure. I love taking Alexander places. So I feel like that would work. But again, if it's like a dog food company, that doesn't make sense because I don't have any pets. So I think that that's important.
And I want to piggyback off of that, because getting rid of barriers and frictional moments for the influencer. So like I will get all the time, like come to this grand opening or come to this happy hour or come support my business between like 5 and 6 on like a Monday. And I'm like, this is not my full-time role. Like I can try my best, I can try to coordinate care, but if there's less barriers for me to be able to do the partnership, then I'm more inclined to be able to take it on, especially if it aligns with what I think would be valuable to the audience and the community I've built.
Real quick, we only have 2 minutes left, so we're going to go real fast with these last 2 questions.
So full disclosure, Morgan's our daughter. This is not a setup. She did not tell me to ask this question, so I'm just putting that out there. But when I look at all 4 of you, and I think, okay, you're probably 20, 30 years younger than me. How do you cross those generational gaps when it comes to influencing? I mean, we take Morgan's recommendations, but we're her parents, and we know her. But how do you reach, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, as millennials, and then some of the centennials that are coming up?
I think that's an excellent question from your mom. I don't think I'm 30 years younger than you, but thank you. But I think that it really depends on the content. Like for instance, I post a lot about motherhood also, and I feel like if you're a parent, you're a parent. Whether you're a young mom, an older mom, I call myself a seasoned mom. So I think that it just depends. I also try to, when I'm posting about things, I think about that from a television standpoint also, that viewers are watching of all ages and races and socioeconomic backgrounds. And so I try to post in such a way where anyone who is following me can get a benefit from it. Maybe you aren't going to take your 6-year-old to mommy land, but you would take your grandson. So I think that, and I feel like, if you're following me and you're older and you're like, nothing applies to me, then just, you can unfollow me. But I try to make it so it's pretty, like, I don't know, I think I'm like kind of like chill anyway. Like I'm not like in my 20s anymore, unfortunately. So I feel like I'm in that age, I think, which you could disagree if you follow me and you're older, but I think that I reach people of all ages with my content, even if they're a little bit older. And my husband's a little bit older. He's Gen X. And so I think about that too, so.
The good thing about food is that it's pretty universal. So I feel like, as long as you're on the platform, I think you can find something that resonates with you. I try to cover all types of experiences. So the fast casual, of course, the cheap eats, but then also really fun dining, like date night experiences that you might want to go to if you're older and have more money. So I think it's just a whole gamut, and that's the beauty of food and drink. I guess you have to be 21 to drink, but for the most part, food is quite well loved.
My name is Ben. I'm a photographer with Ben Hur Studios, LLC. I have a question. So with more younger people being on social media, like for example myself, I get most of the information on social media. So do you guys have any checks to make sure whatever influence that you guys are having on the younger generation is positive or negative? Do you guys have any checks to make sure that whatever you promote in a business or anything is positive?
I mean, I try to stay pretty positive. It depends. Sometimes I have to say I went to this place and had a horrible experience. Very rarely I would do that. I would not do that to someone. But I think that in general, I try to keep things pretty positive. So I think there's a lot of negativity just out there in general, and I don't feel like that's like my brand. I don't think people come to me to find out the most negative thing that's happening. So I think that my thing is more to be positive. And I do try to make sure it's not fake though, because I feel like everything isn't the greatest thing you've ever had. Everything isn't the best place you've ever been. But I think that if I am sharing something, I tend to at least find the positive and post about positive things and not spend any time posting about negative things within reason, I feel like.
I would say for me, I use my stories to be a little bit more chaotic and relatable and fun because I know after a long work day, people are digressing from their day. They don't want to come onto a platform and be told to do certain things or sold to. So I really want to create a space and a forum where you can see my content and you're like, wow, I can relate to that. Or hey, Morgan, I'm checking in on you. Or I'm doing the same thing. I'm checking my DMs to see okay, who responded to what. So for me, it's really creating a safe space to have community engagement and to really have moments where we can connect digitally since we all physically can't be together all the time.
That's great. And I think Sophia standing here is the cue that we are done with this part of the program. Sophia.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone found this evening's conversation enlightening. What I really love is the conversation about how you're building connections with people through your DMs or perhaps when you see them live in person. But most importantly, while social media is a great awareness platform, that folks have to take action if they want to make a real difference in the community. So thank you to tonight's sponsor, Gebben Communication, and to the Ellis for hosting us. We're also grateful for presenting sponsors of our live stream, the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation, as well as the Columbus Dispatch, and an incredibly huge, massive thank you to Elisa Henry, Morgan Pelt, Jenny Zaire, and Heather Whaling. Thank you all so much. Let's give you a round of applause. So as Heather alluded to, there is more to come. So this is a mini forum for a reason, but for those who are tuning in via our live stream, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that you tune in next week, either live or on the computer, for our forum, which is the time to close the gender pay gap in Columbus. So thank you for our live stream, and thank you for everyone who's here in the audience.